here with...
Hi, I'm Christopher M. Allport, and I'm with the movie, well, the director of the movie Emily or Oscar.
Congratulations on your win.
Thank you kindly. Very excited to be honored by Crown Point International Film Festival for Best Editing. And it was a collaboration, the editing between myself, my director of photography, Robert McCall, and the late, great Ishmael Lotz, who was both an actor and editor in the film. So, yes.
That's actually a really good skill to have if you're an actor as an editor, I feel like, because that's pretty in demand.
I actually have to say I'm primarily an actor and a director, but I did study editing with Walter Murch, who is an Academy Award-winning editor. And you can learn a lot by studying editing if you're an actor or a director, because you know how the shots have to fit together and that the editor can make it or break it for you. So
I agree wholeheartedly. I'm an actress and director myself, but you're right. Knowing how it's going to be edited, because so many times when you could appreciate this, I think, probably as an actor, you're stuck in your head in the moment, I feel like, and you don't realize that, okay, well, if I'm holding the mic in this shot, I just felt the emotion that now, you know what I mean? And you have to, the fact that you're cognizant of that?
Well, I'm glad we're having this discussion. It's a thing if you think about like inside the actor's studio or something, and there's all this training about how you feel. Well, yeah. I got news. When you're making a film, I don't really care how the actor feels. I care how the audience receives it when it's finished. And it's actually incredibly technical. It's really technical. Where do you turn your head? Every motion has to match, or it doesn't matter how good the performance is, you can't use it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's like with like a theater performance versus a film performance. I mean, pros and cons. Film, all right, it's scene by scene. Okay, we can reshoot that, but there is something to be said too about, because you have to be so aware. I mean, I can't tell you how many times when I've been on screen where I have to, okay, we're going to cheat this, and it's going to be some like weird angle, and it takes you out of the moment. It's really hard to focus.
And an actor might say, oh, I don't feel comfortable doing that. But the director's saying, but we need you to get comfortable doing that, because we have to make our audience is the one that has to feel comfortable. Right. So as actors, we're like gymnasts or contortionists. Yes. That as filmmakers, that's the magic trick. And I've had a lot of performers that are incredibly talented come into my studio for auditions or screen tests or recording sessions, and they go, oh, but I would never do that. Well, then we can't use you. Because it has to fit together like a puzzle piece.
Well, yeah, sometimes I feel like while maybe your performance wouldn't be as authentic, I guess, if you're in some weird, like you said, a contortionist, but you might have to sacrifice a little bit of that to do it correctly. Hopefully not.
And your job is to make it, if you're a creative artist, your job is to make it so that it's not a sacrifice.
Right.
To accept the constraint and going, yes, what can I do with that constraint that my director gave me for a reason?
Yes, and that's something I'm still learning and still working on. I still have to be cognizant of that. And you being both behind the scenes and in front of the camera, I just recently directed my first feature and had to run it on a shoestring budget. And I have a different viewpoint now, a different vantage point that I didn't realize what people go through on the other end. It was so much easier just being the actress. You know what I mean?
I think it's a lot easier just to be a performer.
Yes.
I love being a performer on camera. With Emily or Oscar, I directed it and had a leading role in it. When I wasn't in the scenes, it was very easy for me to, but I knew what I wanted. I did know what I want, but as an actor, I had to trust that I had other eyes on me that would say, Chris, put your chin down.
Yeah.
Or, because it's technical, it doesn't matter if I'm engaging with my lead.
Yeah.
It matters do you have like side flab under your chin? You know, like that stuff matters on camera, and you wouldn't normally think about it. You know, and so you have to go and
trust in your team.
Trust your team, and also realize that it's not a personal critique or criticism. It's like we just a little bit of a change of the angle, and now you're going to get exactly that beauty shot that you need. Or using the Orson Welles camera techniques of, you know, low angle, really emphasizing a villain or making somebody look more powerful, and a higher angle, making it look a little bit more appealing. I know a trick about me, like Orson Welles always said, you always photograph a man shooting straight up and a woman shooting down. I know for me, like, you actually, because my features are a little softer, you actually have to use the more female camera technique on me. Somebody with harsher, it has more to do with the features than the gender. And so when you start looking at some of the gender rules that were created 80 years ago and start breaking them based upon style and start separating these things out, you can really start creating in a really interesting way. Like know the rules to break them.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. Very, very well said. So where are you located? Where are you from?
So was born and raised in LA, California. I guess I'm kind of a unicorn. People say, "Oh, I didn't know anybody was actually from there." I was born in LA, you know, and I know a lot of people have opinions about it, but like it's home, and I've been fortunate to live and work all over the world and this country, and I love going out into new environments and collaborating with interesting people all over the globe. And Crown Point International Film Festival has been so warm and inviting, and I'd always wanted a reason to come and like work and collaborate with wonderful people in Chicago. So,
well, it's great you've traveled so far. I mean, it's easy if you're local, but
yeah, I mean, as an independent filmmaker, and you know, I have been involved in a lot of like big films like Pirates of the Caribbean 3 and Hocus Pocus and Mr. Holland's Opus and you know, big things like that. But these days I'm living in the independent cinema world, and I love it. Like I live and breathe independent cinema and writing these days because I feel like I have something to say, and I want to be around other people that have something to say too, because we all kind of like each other and get along pretty well.
Yeah, I feel like the independent film scene is much less like a corporate machine that the big, you know, whatever the big, quote unquote, big films are, which I appreciate that it's more, I'm a loss for words, but more dynamic, more, like you said, more of a creative process rather than totally going by some formula, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I know like a lot of the films that I had done as a kid, those were big studio films that I was involved with, and I think they were less formulaic than the films that are made today. But that being said, I do understand the studio system and why things are made this way. It is a business. Yeah. It's show business.
It works.
But where we're at with independent cinema is, what I've been trying to do is taking the best of what works from the studio system and integrating it with what I know people want to do and feel and create. And the cool thing about independent cinema is we have to make every single piece fit with very little money.
Right.
So,
I can appreciate that. Yeah.
So if you take the conversation of money out of it, pretend like you have $0 and that you're a 6-year-old playing in a sandbox.
Yeah.
You get to create anything that you want. And the question is, how do I make this work without having, it almost becomes better because you don't have 80 teams of 200 people each doing CGIs. Like, you have to think, well, what is the shot? What is one shot that can tell these 1,000 words that I have to say in my mind?
Well, I think you have to wear multiple hats too if you're an independent filmmaker. I mean, I wore so many, I was falling over. You know?
And I honor that to you. because I know a lot of independent filmmakers are like, oh, but we have to find so-and-so to do this edit or this thing. Do it yourself, because you'll learn as you go. And the thing is, I know that if I had turned my film, Emily or Oscar, over to somebody else to edit it, they wouldn't have understood what I was trying to do. And the editing is just as important as the writing in terms of what you're saying, where that cut happens.
Hey, you're cutting my... No, I agree. The editing and sound, I feel like, can make or break a film more so than some of the other stuff.
Well, big time. And that edit is either awkward or noticeable or virtually unnoticeable. And an unnoticeable edit is the best edit.
Yeah, right. I mean, I have found that I could appreciate something if I'm watching a series or a movie, like, wow, I like how they transitioned. So I'm noticing it sometimes, but it's so good that it's like, that's okay that I noticed it.
And you have to know why. Like, as you're putting the edit together and you realize, wow, like I'm responsible for everything that the writer's done now, everything the actor's done, everything the director and the production designers and sound people, and that's now a responsibility that you have to think of extremely organized about it. You can't cut corners. You have to look at every take, even the screw ups that people say, oh no, we're not going to use that. I need to see everything so that I can understand the evolution of how the winning take was made. And furthermore, there actually might be something in that take that somebody else thought wasn't going to work that is actually going to work.
That's a good point. Now, what are you working on next? What do you got?
Well, I have two big projects. One is it's a documentary about the history of rock and roll from the West Coast.
Oh, nice.
And we have some really cool people in it, like a couple of original Beach Boys. So it's not quite announced yet, but I can say that
Well, it is now.
Yeah, this is a little tidbits are coming out. So actually, it's going to be really cool. It's going to be called The Sound of Gold. So that's coming out, and then also I have a novel. That's a Scandinavian action adventure novel called The Senja Chronicles. Let me see if I have a card for it, because I do. So it's The Senja Chronicles, SENJA, chronicles.com, and it's a Scandinavian historical action adventure novel.
Ooh.
And this is co-written with my partner Fonsu and Jai, who lives in Scandinavia.
Nice. So you get to travel that'll be exciting for you. I'm getting signals from over there. Are we? Okay. Yes. live and at the scene.
Maybe
so
that'll get edited out, or maybe we'll just
maybe it's gold in there. We don't know. We got to look at every.
Get every angle.
Well, where else can the fans find you, or potential film investors?
You can find me at allportproductions.com, so ALLPORT productions.com. You can find me on Facebook, Christopher M. Allport, on Instagram at CM Allport, or on LinkedIn, Christopher M. Allport. So,
well, thank you so much, and congratulations. It was a pleasure talking to you, because you have a lot to say, and which is great, because I like to pick your brain while we're filming this. So thank you so much, and congratulations.